Hello and welcome back to the PLP. It feels like it's been a while. Bit of a slow start to the season because I'm not chasing my tail for once. So we've just glided quite seamlessly into another round of league games. Not much really to update anybody on. There was quite a slim waiver pickup summary. Just the four from this most recent window, fourth of six. And I'll sort of cover those when I get to it. Irrelevant teams. First up though, a very first look of the season at Thomarse, who made an okay start but then did drop points in their second game in the Championship. So they're playing, for what it's worth, very slight catch up at this point. There you can see one win, one loss. The same actually as their opponents today, Liverpool C. Still expect a decent win here, especially at home. But I think I've touched upon in the past couple of weeks, these away trips in the Championship should be a bit more complicated and tricky than he's found in the first two seasons. Same goes for Foyverton and Ellister as well, although they've made it relatively easy so far, 2 wins out of 2. And actually, it's not completely unusual for Thomas's teams to take a while to warm up in the season, mostly because he's one of the more active summer draft, waivers, transfer dealers. And FM doesn't usually reward big overhauls. But Thomas is a bit of a wheeler dealer, always thinking about his overheads, his squad structure, the size, dimensions, everything. I've seen some graphs, I've seen some graphics. You think I'm taking this seriously? For context, the most recent nerd off, let's call it that, was him taking all the averages of the different heights of the squads because he was absolutely adamant that he had the tallest squad of the 28 of us. Turns out he's absolutely right. Still not the best moment of Thomas's so far over the past 3 years. The best being he works in a prison and he got one of the inmates to draw a picture of Sol Campbell, his first draft pick. And I've seen it, it's absolutely fucking brilliant. And speaking of absolutely fucking brilliant, this first 10 minutes have taken 3 minutes in highlights land because there have been so many highlights. Utter domination, and actually looking at that team, that must be close to what Thomas would want from his first 11. Giroud had a very truncated season last year, but if he can stay fit, if Odegaard can keep pinging goals in from 30 yards, won't do any harm. He has now lost the ever reliable, in inverted commas, Ansu Fati, sold to Luton down in the NLP last week, and he scored on his debut as well. He's always trying to keep his finances in check. He was the first to unearth the kind of sale loan business model, selling a player with the express intention that if he wants him back, he can sign him back at face value. There's a few out on that kind of dressed up loan structure at the moment. I was going to start telling you about Liverpool C's team, but to be honest, we haven't barely had a single second where we've not been in live action, because he's on course for a 15-0 win at the moment. Alexander-Arnold's first goal for the club since his move from Dorset's Devils in the summer. This is ridiculous. Maybe that's 17 or 18-0. Surely not. 7 before half time. Not quite. Full sound of Westerveld. Needs a lie down and a cold compress. The only thing of note to actually say about that Liverpool C team is that I'm surprised Raul Morelos is still there. He was released by AFZ Wimbledon, Zach, over the summer after a couple of years there. Because Zach suddenly remembered that he'd left to go to Chelsea and suddenly had a wave of hate sweep over him. So we shipped him off, and there's been a few that have inquired about him and have been on the cusp of adding him to their waiver lists, I think, over the first 4 windows. No one taking the plunge. Which is unfortunate for Raul, looking at the shit that he's got around him. Michael Thomas, he was a good player in his day. As was Walters out on the left, actually. Other than that, they've been pretty decimated by draft picks and the like. Haven't really invested to replace it. And after that manic first half, we're coasting to a dreary end of the game and a massive win for Thomas overall. Look at that match story chart. Into League One, and a team that have had a very checkered start to this season in terms of the Sky Lews. Got promoted through the playoffs at the back end of last season, and I think 1 draw, 1 loss to show for their first 2 games, the same again as their opponents, Aston Villa C. So much like Thomas, he'll be hoping that having the cameras here at the ground will elicit a bit of a stronger performance. In theory, this should be an exciting season for Louis. Jesus. It's his first season without European football. Oh no, I suppose he wouldn't have had it in the first season, but certainly the second year. Played about 1 billion games. Did win the... Oh no, of course he's got European football. Ignore everything I said a few minutes ago, including this being a good game for Louis to play, because he's 1-0 down and actually does have European football this year, because he did win the Conference League last season. So he's actually up to the Europa League. It means he has been given a bye through the first 2 rounds of the Carabao Cup at least. But De Zerbi is struggling to get a tune out of his team early doors this campaign. I can't really see a reason why. There wasn't much overhaul over the summer at all. One person he did bring in was that man, Vialli, at his 3rd pyramid club in 3 seasons. He helped Forster win League 2 in season 1, then got dumped, ended up down in the National League Prem, played for the now defunct Nottingham Giant Forest all last season. Obviously became a free agent when Mr. Daniels left us, and then was picked up with Louis, I think, as his only draft pick, maybe 1 of 2. I think at most, I think it was just the 1. And finally, a stirring of something to cheer about. I'm a little bit intrigued by Aston Villa C as well. I presume they're playing a back 3? They're not. So their manager now is Glenn Hoddle, who I'm not sure where he's been on his travels since season 1, but in season 1 was Liam's manager draft pick for Manchester because he played a back 3. Backfired horrifically because obviously Beckham, his only right wing back option, broke his leg and he ended up with Paddy McNair at right wing back. But other than that, it was a pretty dire season in general. Unlike Mr. Amorim, it looks like he's learnt his lesson and decided to go to a back 4. Excuse me. I'm actually allergic to Louis winning a game. Bit scruffy, he'll take it. One thing I've enjoyed about watching Louis' games over the first 2 seasons was the depth of his squad. By depth I mean just sheer volume, which did mean a lot of the inherited players have got game time, the likes of Peter Unlove, Darren Huckabee, Paul Telfer, Gary Breen. Not so much of them, Mustafa Hadji and Yusuf Chippo. Not so much of them this year. Maybe that's why they're lacking a bit of spark. That is until literally the last 5 minutes. It's 12 goals in 2 games and counting so far today, hence why we're 12 minutes into this highlights reel and only 1.5 games down. It's been a familiar theme actually for the first sort of 2-3 weeks of this season. A hell of a lot of goals, especially in the highlighted games. Oh, there's the back 3. Spoke too soon. This is the second time we've seen Villa C actually in about 4 or 5 days. They also succumbed to Cheshampton in midweek. Shesh having to catch up with that game because of his Community Shield win at the last weekend. And just like Lawrence, I think he's 2 for 2. I think Levi dropped points last weekend, so he's 1-1, drawn 1. And obviously Louis drawn and lost. Just trying to think what Tom Dauncey sat at. I think Tom might have won his first 2 games as well, actually. No, of course not. He lost to Lawrence on the first opening day, so he's 1-1, lost 1. And Louis tempting the FM gods a bit here as well. Glenn Hoddle gone back to his back 3. Nothing to lose. Let's get the ball time. Whoever Aguirre is doesn't want to get the ball, but bit of a nervy ending, despite 80% possession at one point there. Should be alright now. Much needed win. Not exactly prolific, but he'll take it. Oh god, I forgot about this. Normally I've got 2 live games coming up this weekend and next. Just by the way that the fixtures around it are falling, I try and keep it as fair as possible, and also, to be honest, I try and keep my own live games as limited as possible. It never seems to go well for me. But that being said, I have had a good start to the season. 2 wins from 2, cow of 1 win, 1 draw, so not terrible either. That was 1 win, 1 loss, sorry, I think. Beat Marshy on the opening day of the season. Not quite so positive last weekend. It's always a bit of an unknown quantity, Dan City Cow. I must say, I'm really enjoying my new look team. Howard Oh, everyone's left the pitch, that's a bad injury. Yeah, there they are. Physio hadn't even left the pitch then before they started. Ben Alpha shitting himself in the very far corner. Well, Mr. Kovacic gives the away team an early lead. Yeah, I was about to say that I'm really enjoying my team at the moment. Love the shape, obviously love the players. Not loving the fact that I've barely touched the ball in 35 minutes here, let alone had a shot. This is frequently what happens when I end up having to watch my games on the highlights reel. But I'll take that. Go on, Les. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of my games follow this kind of pattern. Don't think I'm going to be really in control of any. But with Shearer and Ferdinand up front, I should be pretty efficient with my strike rate. Well worked. League 2, as it has been the first 2 years, to be honest, is going to be almost impossible to predict. There does seem to be quite a lot of ebbs and flows in terms of form and momentum. I think Lawrence really took hold of the division last year until around November. And actually, Calvo was one of the teams, alongside myself really, that were looking in a commanding position up until that point. Both faded away. As to the likes of Arsened, I think they'd had a good start last year. Matt Warrington, unfortunately, dropped himself into the playoff Hunger Games and eventually lost to Lews. So let's put him amongst the favourites for this season. I'd say Leeds UniTodd as well might be a bit of a dark horse. All too easy to scythe through me though. I think that's going to be familiar sight for me. I don't mind the familiar sight of Obafemi Martin getting game time though, also Maximan to be honest. Too little too late, I would think. That being said, have I... Oh! I don't think I've ever done a commentator's anti-curse to myself. Gonna make it 3 to finish. Oh, no, not quite. This would be dramatic. Nope. Well done, Calv. Both now sitting on 2 wins and a loss. No disasters there after 3 games in this division. We're staying in League 2, we are. The aforementioned Leeds UniTodd, after a very good start to the season, another team to have won both their opening games. Up against Harry Pally, who actually, you know, I think if you were just listening to the highlights, you'd think they'd had a bad start to the year. And I guess in theory it's not been ideal, but they have won one and lost one. They beat a non-draft team last weekend. Currently sitting in 16th as a result, and actually lost their first game only by the 1 goal, despite playing with 10 men for 70 minutes. Went out of the Carabao Cup, not ideal, but again it was one of only 2 all-drafter clashes and they were away. And to add insult to injury, they've also been put in a really difficult group in the first round of the EFL Trophy. There's only one group with 3 draft teams in it, so only a guaranteed team to go out. And they're alongside the Tractor Bulge, and I think it's Ellister City as well. Oh no, it can't be them. Maybe Danielsea, actually, I think it is. So on paper, the team most likely to go out. But still finding his feet with Ranieri in charge. Finding his feet with the 4-4-2 that he was hoping Wenger would play all those years and never did. And unfortunately, I'm not sure how this plays out in the game, but nearly all of his players I've had to intervene, all his better players. I think Torres, Gerrard, Alonso, Okocha and Redknapp, I think, have all, in theory, been out the exit door and I've had to drag them back. The idea of having Defoe and Torres up front for a season shouldn't be horrendous, but the start to this game is. So the momentum carried from the sort of last few weeks of last season for Leeds UniTodd very much has continued into the start of this season. If he can keep everyone fit, that midfield is destructive. Defence looks solid. And Anelka's not exactly bad up top. Yeah, speed, Vieira and Pogba, full flown versions of all 3. Struggle to find a better midfield amongst us. Gerrard and Alonso obviously would be on their day, but unfortunately this Gerrard version is about 34 now. Hasn't quite hit the heights. I think it was a very good deal for Mr. Bolger to release him or to trade him when he did, considering he got MATTch in return. He's proved to be invaluable, and actually therefore the goalkeeper position's been one of the problems for Harry. And of course, as I say, Gerrard's struggling. He pings one into the bottom corner in classic Stevie G fashion. Should have slagged off Ballack more in the last game. Game on. Oh, nearly came very much on. Great end to the half. Oh, it's there. So in theory, when Harry does score goals, they should be glorious ones. The kind of players he's gone for, all quite enigmatic, colourful characters. And that is classic JJ Okocha, what's a finish. He's already had one Alonso pinging off the bar, Gerrard from long range. When things do click, they should be very enjoyable to watch. Surely not. Oh, Harry's purring. Ismail Assar and Paolo Di Canio, not exactly lacking flair either. We got a glimpse of it then, but I think Leeds United have got a bit of an injury issue here. I don't know if he's already made all his subs and then had a player go off. Double check that in a second. In the meantime, he's just going to have to steady the ship a bit. This has come out of absolutely nowhere. What an effort. It's a back heel attempt. Rare for Selhurst Park to be entertained like this. This is great to watch. He's in this time. Surely Chesney keeping him in the game. No, he has got still 11 on the pitch. I swear I saw an injury. It might have just been a player that was actually substituted off. Both gone to 4-4-2 now. I don't think Bielsa's done that very often. What a ball. There it is, and it's fully deserved. It's rare to see two such different halves. Leeds United absolutely in control until basically the final 3 minutes of that first half, and ever since. It's been glorious from the home side. Wilfred, the home hero. One of Martin Keown's trademark raking balls from centre-back. This would be a big win. And as he says that, the inevitable? Not quite. Could be a big win. So I don't think Harry would have been too bothered about the Carabao Cup exit. If he'd promised him 6 points from 9. Oh, I didn't realise that was happening. Wojciech's gone for a wander. Oh, I didn't even see him. I thought that was the ref, I think. Is that another Keown assist? More authentically with his big ugly head. Fernando, who's missed a few chances today. Seen Harry over the line. He's going to be sitting on the edge of the playoffs by the end of today. And another game with 6+ goals in. And final live game of today, or highlighted game I should say. Heading down to the NLP to take a first glimpse against non-draft opposition. With Craig Trudgell's otbCraig. We did see him last week up against Manchester, and he won that game quite comfortably in the end. I think it was 3-0 away as well, which has taken him top. A familiar position for him at this level. Spent a lot of last season topping the table, only to have a pretty hideous sort of January to March period. It's been relatively active in the summer, I was going to say, one of those being David Ospina, who was given the number 1 position, if not the number 1 jersey. But he's off already, a bit of an injury within 3 minutes, and it's the other summer acquisition, Jerzy Dudek, who comes in, brought in from Jazz of the Rovers. Diego Costa, also part of that pretty mammoth trade. I can't remember all the elements of it. I think there were about 5 heading his way overall. Colin Hendry, I think, was amongst them. Olivier Decour was brought in the drafts, I believe. It's a lot to try and remember. One notable absence, partly because of that Decour arrival, is Carlton Palmer, who hasn't really been involved yet so far this season, and was the subject of a summer transfer bid from elsewhere in the pyramid the other day. Swiftly rejected that one, didn't even need to ask him about that one. One player that's left under his watch though is Paul McVeigh, and he's actually playing for the away team, the opposition today. Is he on? He is on. Obviously we would expect our draft teams to win these home games against non-draft opposition. And when we come to the results, I'm very much hoping it will be a first win in the PLP for Jason's Malginho's Blues. Didn't go well for him on day 1, losing at home to Everton D, I think it was. Then he did lose to Luton last week, but there were signs of encouragement, definitely. He was the most active drafter in the waivers this past week, bringing in Dennis Wise and Dominic Solanke to hopefully give him a bit of a spark, and let's call a spade, to try and keep Emil Heskey out of the team, because he's fluffed his lines on more than one occasion over these first 2 weeks. That's in. Own goal. Aki Rihilati, formerly of Harry Pally. Good authority, apparently a Crystal Palace legend. Occasionally forgets which way he's shooting there also. Great finish from the finish. In theory, if Craig can build another sizable lead at the top of the table like he did last year, and at least there is no Marshyside level team to reel him in, I would though say that Lews have also looked very good and have also been very handy in the transfer market this summer. No 6-goal thriller for this one, but very routine and a very simple 3 points for our league leaders. Alright, 32 minutes into this highlights package, we finally get to the scores elsewhere around the pyramid, and we go to a very recognisable sight, a comfortable home win at this level for Mr. Foyster. A goal within 1 minute for Ronaldo, who looks an absolute beast so far this season. Raheem Sterling adding a goal in the second half. Still yet to see a lot of the many people that Foyster's brought in over the course of the summer. This squad is quite large. Ellister also keeping up their 100% record, comfortable 3-0 away from home, 2 penalties, both dispatched by Monsieur Eric and Phil Foden, the inevitable Phil Foden, completing a comfortable win. Down into League One, and it's 3 from 3 for Chesh. Salah, Rooney just back from his suspension for an opening day red card, and he's gone and got another one. I think even if it is 2 yellows to make a red, I'm pretty sure you're out for 2 games if it's your second red card of the season. Don't know what's made him so particularly angry over the summer. Good win for Levi. Wouldn't have been pleased with his away draw last week. Nkunku, De Bruyne and Jacob Ramsey making sure they've put things right very quickly. Another red card. We've seen a lot of them this season already as well. This time Keith Curle, no stranger to that colour either. And drop points. We've always had some drop points in League One. We've not made it through with a completely 100% record yet. This time it was former league leaders White Hart Chamberlain, Lawrence's team, with an unsuspecting 0-0 draw at Sunderland B. Kyle Walker injury not ideal either. On balance from the stats, pretty fair result as well. Into the very busy and chaotic League Two, and it's another win for Warringham. I'll go back to my cliche, when Haaland's playing you're basically 2-0 down already, and that was quite literally the case in this game. A Saka missed penalty, ultimately meaning he couldn't reel him in, Ned. Wilshere actually gave them a lead. Bit of a missed opportunity. Nice easy win for Danielsea, who are going very well. They arrived late on the scene last year, doing a lot of good work in these first couple of weeks so far. No Kentry Pyers this week. Bit of a fleeting cameo from him so far. Pedro Brace and Declan Rice. Blackpool look like absolute fodder for everyone this year so far. First drop points for Gourlayverpool at this level. Tricky banana skin you'd say, away at Brighton B, and actually outplayed for the majority of it. Hugo Ehiob, I'm pretty sure with his first goal since arriving in the summer. Limiting the impact of Mr. Gruder. Little appearance for Victor Utd B there on loan from Foyverton. Good win for Bustin Villa. Bit of a Midlands derby. Making sure that Rob Earnshaw from the spot wasn't any more damaging than a consolation goal. Overmars, Poborski and a first goal, I believe, for Javi Simons, who's having to play up front. Obviously Paul brought him in over the summer, but Mr. Atkinson, very devoted to his old white man 4-4-2. 27 shots, decent. Big win for Connor. He was a bit perplexed and disillusioned after last week. One concerning piece of evidence on that left hand side is the very first minute, an injury to Michael Owen, but it looks like it's Isak that's come on and done the damage. 2 goals, a goal either side of half time, and a first for Fornals, who we only brought in about 10 days ago. Signs of life from Carrow Road. Signs of life from Coventry B as well, who, a bit like Blackpool, have been at the mercy of everyone else so far, but they've kept down City wise for a 0-0 draw, and again, got good for it. Despite the Shevchenko drop, but in theory, quality strike force, couldn't make a breakthrough. Jazz the Rovers, another team to rely on a new arrival to get him over the line. One Sebastian Veron, brought in from Manchester and has made a good start, to be fair, as has Jazz with the Rovers in general actually. Very solid start to this season. And a first appearance for MATTch, who I think Jazz was a bit worried about. Wasn't really making an appearance, and I think actually got some game time for the under-21s the other day. I think he may have started this game. I think the graphic you see there is how the game ended rather than how it started. Might be wrong on that one. AFC Wimbledon, 3 out of 3. Admittedly, I think there's a couple of non-draft teams they've faced in amongst that, and another injury that will be cause for concern, this time David Raya. But always nice to see Neil Sullivan. And certainly nice to see Gundogan and Mane continue their rich vein of scoring form. Forgot to look at Man United C there. So let's, you never know who might be interested in seeing how Jesper Blomqvist or Mike Phelan are getting on. That's enough. Marshy, 2 wins out of the last 2 after his opening day defeat. And it was, we've said, we haven't seen much of Sesko so far this season, but he's come off the bench, I think, to save the day here. First appearance even in the matchday squad, and a very timely goal, despite being down to 10 men as well. You'd have thought after losing Cancelo in 20 minutes and then going down to Stein and Cascarino goals, and Cascarino missing a penalty as well, that would have led to defeat, but Sesko had other thoughts. And finally, a drab 0-0, which, to be honest, isn't horrendous for either. I think Craig would have definitely taken a draw away from home. It's a team that was so potent last year, and actually the Red Wall have made such a shocking start to this season that just steadying the ship slightly will be helpful. 2 more concerning injuries though. Solskjaer and Southgate, 90s legends. I think Tom will be a bit concerned that even with the likes of Dwight York coming off the bench, he couldn't muster a single shot on target. Finally down to the NLP, and a loss for Luton. Didn't see that coming. These away games are proving tricky. A couple of awful performances from Van Hecker and Verbruggen. And even a late rally from Matheus Nunes, not enough. Chukwueze, who joined the database. Fulham C could be a tricky team actually with those 2 brought in. Kevin being the other. Obviously they hadn't played many Premier League games, so we're only eligible for as far as Fulham C. Was that Josh Game? That can't be Josh Game. Yeah, Andy Game. Elsewhere, what do we got? Slow build up, slow build up. Oh, win for Manchester. That's 2 from 2 against non-draft opposition. So I know Liam was very disappointed about losing that game to Craig last week. But actually it's a pretty solid performance away from home. And to be honest, any away win against non-draft teams in this, or any division, just take, to be honest. Oh, I missed the Marginio's Blues. And it's another red card that has caused some problems this time. Again, not entirely surprisingly. Al-Haj Diouf. Dominic Solanke's arrival, obviously not enough to warrant a start, but at least there were some signs of action from his strike force. George Weir getting his first game, alongside Emil Heskey, both hitting the net. Just baby steps for Jason's lads. Right, up to the league tables. And we can see the top two still running away with things. Hull keeping pace with them. And, I mean, Matty Ellis has only conceded one. Foyce has bagged 11 in 3. Thomarse wouldn't have done any harm to their confidence today, though. Very much still in it. League One. We've got... Hang on, did we do Dauntley's game? Or have I missed something? I have. I do apologise. Having a quick look there. This is why I missed it. Not much else to say other than a slightly disappointing home draw against Cardiff. I think of a fate that was also experienced by the Sky Lews in recent weeks. So now we're sat with Dauntley and Louis 7th and 8th, the others occupying the top 3 with 2 wins and a draw. Oh, this has been a mess. League 2. Starting to filter ourselves a little bit better now. The red wall of the outliers really struggling to the start of this season. Norwich are off the board in 17th. Ned still with 1 win to his name. Olgie win, draw, loss. Everyone else within 3 points of each other. So the whole of the top half showing why this season is going to be such a melee. That being said, Warringham the danger team, I'd say. Danielsea starting really well, and Zig maybe the surprise package. And finally down to the NLP, where it's 3 from 3. Craig joining Everton D, which puts Marginio's Blues opening day defeat in a bit more positive context, I'd say. Luton, the surprise loss, and then everyone else a bit spread around. Liam now sitting in 8th, that's only because of goal difference. His loss last week doing a bit of damage. And then Marginio's Blues, unfortunately, we haven't made a plan for if they go down to the National League North. I mean, the division's loaded, that can happen if they want. But I'm pretty sure he won't be there in a few months' time. Oh, slightly chaotic, 43 minutes in, it's hot, I'm bothered. Now you get a bit of a break from me until Wednesday. I think we've got just championship games actually. And then another little break until everyone's back in action again next weekend. See you soon.